Give me some stats for two players. Blind stats here. Blind stats.
Okay, here we go.
I'm gonna try to write it down.
Player A is 29 years old. And these are both quarterbacks. And I'm going to preface this by saying these are two quarterbacks that have very similar stats, but one, when I say the rankings, you're going to be very surprised. The yards per attempt for player A is 7.6 yards per attempt, 257 yards per game, has an interception rate of 1.9, a touchdown percentage of 5%. And they've scored 16.4 fantasy points per game this year. Reason I chose those stats were ones that I feel like those are ones that you want to look at when you are looking at a quarterback in fantasy. Player B, moving on to player B. Player B is 28 years old, so a year younger. Has 7.4 yards per attempt, 257 yards per game, almost exact, literally 0.6 more. And these are career. The only one that is for this year is the fantasy points per game. Should have prefaced that. My apologies. Interception percentage 2.1%, touchdown percentage 4.4%, and fantasy points per game this year 16.1. Player A is a two-time Pro Bowl Rookie of the Year. Player B is a two-time Pro Bowler and also has the record for most completions in a regular season game.
Okay.
Two career-wise great quarterbacks. I know that's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. What'd you say? Wait, what'd you say the fantasy points were for player B?
Player B was 16.1. And I'll kind of start to talk about each player more, and I think you'll be able to pick up who each of them are as I start to give more hints. Unless you want to, do you want to give it a shot first?
I'll give it a shot on A. It is A. No, maybe that's two. Ryan Tannehill.
It is not Ryan Tannehill for player A.
Okay.
I will say player A. Now here, I'll give you a hint. I'm going to give you the rankings for each player.
Okay.
Player A on Sleeper for Dynasty Keeper Leagues, or on Fantasy Pros, excuse me, is ranked 12th for quarterbacks. Player B is ranked 23rd.
Okay. Is Derek Carr one of these quarterbacks?
They're not. Another hint, player B is having a resurgence of a year. He's had a couple off years, but he is performing really well this year, and I think is a player that people should be starting to take a look at.
Okay, what quarterback is having a kind of a bounce back year?
The whole team in general is having a bounce back. Isn't even the right word.
Okay, so player B is Jared Goff.
Indeed,
It
is.
I actually traded Jared Goff for Kirk Cousins straight up last season, and
that's not a horrible trade especially at the time.
Last year, Kirk Cousins performed better. This year, Jared Goff's a little bit better. They're probably fairly even quarterbacks. All right.
Can you believe he's ranked 23rd quarterback though in Dynasty?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And he's got weapons too. And
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm like, oh well, he must not have weapons. I'm like, nah, he has Amon-Ra, he has Jameson Williams, who's one of the best he will be one of the best deep threats in the league. He has Khalif Raymond. He has receivers.
I think that they were at one point considering drafting a QB, but they might still draft the QB. Jared Goff is still going to be their starter, probably to start.
He will be somewhere at some point.
If not, yeah, he'll start somewhere. He is a starting quarterback in this league, and I think that he was at one point, and maybe still is underrated when he got traded from the Rams and they went and won a Super Bowl. That made him look bad, but I think he would have won a Super Bowl with that team too. They stacked the entire team.
I mean, Stafford played amazing, but at the same time, Stafford this year was not the best.
All right, who's player A really quickly?
Dak Prescott.
Okay. See, I like Jared Goff, and both of those guys are kind of mid-tier QBs, but
being ranked 12th and 23rd, yeah, that's a big difference between the two.
Less than a first for sure. All right, we are out of time. We'll get more into those type of things in the future weeks.